In less than 24 hours after Trump threatened China with sinking its ships in the Strait of Hormuz, 4 major developments have occurred that have left the world horrified. Donald Trump reportedly reacted with anger after what he called a violation of his blockade, warning that China had crossed a dangerous line. He stated that if warnings were ignored again, the United States military would demonstrate its capability without hesitation, pushing tensions closer to conflict. China responded forcefully. In an official statement, Beijing rejected the warnings and confirmed its tankers will continue operations in the region. They warned that any interference with their vessels would trigger a severe response, signaling readiness to escalate. Russia issued a cautionary message, warning that conflict in the region could have devastating global consequences, while also reaffirming support for allies if military involvement becomes necessary. At the same time, pressure is rising inside the United States. Lawmakers are demanding an emergency congressional session, arguing that presidential war powers must be restricted to prevent escalation.
China launched an ultimatum that paralyzed Washington. If the United States blocks the Strait of Hormuz, Beijing will intervene militarily without prior negotiation or any further warning. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs angrily condemned Trump's decision to intercept Iranian ports in the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea, calling it an illegal assault on global trade. Xi Jinping warned that the Strait of Hormuz is an absolute red line for China, whose economy depends on the oil flow that Trump intends to control unilaterally with his navy. Beijing has already deployed additional destroyers to the Persian Gulf, sending an unmistakable signal that this ultimatum is not diplomacy, but military preparation in real time. Trump responded with new tariff threats, but China replied that its economy can withstand any sanction better than Washington can withstand, a simultaneous war against Iran and Beijing. Russia immediately closed ranks with China, turning the ultimatum into a triple warning that no American president had ever faced in all of modern history. Is China truly willing to go to war over the Strait of Hormuz? Or is this ultimatum the last attempt to stop what no one can stop anymore?
China said that if Iran gives permission, they could destroy the United States in a single day.
China said that whatever loss it has suffered will have to be compensated by the United States, and it will also have to apologize to Iran.
The United States is overstepping its limits, but it is not more powerful than us.
中国人民不惹事儿，也不怕事。中华民族是吓不倒。
This is huge breaking news coming in. A serious warning has just come from China to United States for blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun said that we have trade and energy agreements with Iran. We expect others not to interfere in our affairs. The Strait of Hormuz is open to us. This is being seen as a direct message to the United States. Right now, the U.S. blockade is under action, and the situation is tense. The U.S. is trying to control shipping routes. Iran is refusing to give up control, and China is stepping in to protect its interests. China depends on Iranian oil, so blocking the strait directly affects it. By making this statement, China is clearly pushing back against U.S. actions. This means the situation is no longer just between the U.S. and Iran. It is now turning into a direct standoff between the U.S. and China. If neither side backs down, tensions could rise very quickly. And if the U.S. tries to stop a Chinese tanker, this situation could explode instantly.
China has now issued a threat that sounds like a warning, but reads like a promise. If America sends missiles or warplanes to strike Iran, China says it will destroy them. Beijing claims it has technology advanced enough to detect and target even America's stealth aircraft jets. The U.S. has long treated as untouchable. For decades, America believed stealth meant one thing: you could cross hostile skies and no radar would ever truly see you. But China is saying that era is over. Their message is blunt: send anything toward Iran, any missile, any warplane, and we'll take it out before it reaches Iranian airspace. And then comes the part meant to shake the region. China says that as long as it's present, the U.S. won't be allowed to spread destruction there, and that it will not permit an American attack on Iran. They go even further, accusing the U.S. of fueling unrest inside Iran, claiming Washington stoked protests to force regime change and install a government of its choosing. China's final line is the hook that lands hardest. That ends now. China says it will fully defend Iran no matter matter the...
Mr. Donald Trump, listen carefully now. China will no longer provide rare earth processing to the United States. Effective immediately. Exports of refined rare earth oxides, metals and magnets to your market are suspended. We tried everything. Dialogue, warnings, facts. But you refuse to understand what you are doing to global stability and to your own economy. To all Americans hearing this announcement, expect higher prices on products that depend on rare earth components, EV motors, wind turbines, medical imaging devices, smartphones, laptops, hard drives, precision tools, and advanced defense systems. These costs are the predictable result of reckless tariff theater. China will act with precision and restraint to protect its people and industries. Today's decision is a responsible, coordinated measure rooted in law and proportion. If Washington escalates further through new tariffs, sanctions, or export controls, understand this clearly. The era of taking China's critical processing for granted is over. Stand down your escalation, and serious talks can resume.
And just sent to the United States. What happens next? Something is shifting in the relationship between China and the United States. And if you've been paying attention, you can feel it. Not just in headlines, but in tone, posture, and the subtle signals both sides are sending. The question is not simply whether there is tension. That has existed for years. The real question is this. Has that tension crossed into a new phase? One where actions speak louder than diplomacy? And if so, what does that mean for the future? To understand the threat being discussed, you have to look beyond a single statement or event. Modern geopolitical tension rarely comes as a clear declaration. Instead, it emerges through patterns, military exercises, strategic deployments, economic signals, and political messaging. Recently, observers have pointed to increased military activity in key regions, sharper rhetoric from officials, and a growing willingness to test boundaries. But what exactly is being communicated here? Is it a warning, a show of strength, or a calculated move to reshape global influence? Consider the role of military signaling. When a nation increases naval patrols, conducts large-scale exercises, or showcases new defense technology, it is not just about readiness, it is communication. These actions send messages without words. In the case of China, expanded activity in contested areas and demonstrations of advanced capabilities are often interpreted as signals directed at the United States and its allies. But here's the key question. Are these actions defensive in nature, or are they meant to challenge existing power structures? From the perspective of the United States, maintaining a presence in strategic regions has long been part of its global approach. Military alliances, forward deployments, and naval operations are designed to ensure stability and protect interests. Yet these same actions can be viewed very differently by others. What one side calls deterrence, the other may see as encroachment. This difference in perception is where tension grows and where misunderstandings can escalate. So what exactly is the threat? It may not be a single statement or a direct warning. Instead, it is the accumulation of signals that suggest a willingness to push boundaries further than before. It is the sense that both sides are testing how far they can go without triggering a direct confrontation. And that raises a critical question for you. How do nations interpret each other's actions when trust is limited? The military dimension is central to this issue. Both countries possess advanced capabilities, and both have invested heavily in modernizing their forces. From naval fleets to cyber operations, the scope of potential engagement is broader than ever. But here's something worth thinking about. Does having greater capability make conflict more likely, or does it act as a deterrent? The answer is not simple. While strength can prevent aggression, it can also increase competition, as each side seeks to maintain or surpass the other. Another layer to consider is the role of technology. Modern military power is no longer just about physical assets. It includes information, communication systems, and digital infrastructure. Cyber capabilities, for example, have become a key area of concern. When discussions about threats arise, they often include the possibility of disruptions that do not involve traditional warfare. This adds complexity because such actions can be difficult to attribute and respond to. So ask yourself this: how do you respond to a threat that is not clearly visible? Economic factors also play a significant role. The relationship between China and the United States is deeply interconnected. Trade, supply chains, and financial systems link the two nations in ways that make outright conflict costly for both. Yet economic measures, such as restrictions, tariffs, and policy changes, can also serve as tools of pressure. When these measures are combined with military signaling, they create a multidimensional form of competition that goes beyond traditional definitions of conflict. So what happens next? That depends on how both sides interpret and respond to these signals. One possibility is continued competition without direct confrontation. In this scenario, both nations push for influence while avoiding actions that could lead to escalation. This approach requires careful management, clear communication, and a shared understanding of limits. But here's the challenge. What happens if those limits are not clearly defined? Another possibility is increased tension leading to incidents, moments where actions are misinterpreted or where responses are stronger than intended. History shows that many conflicts begin not with deliberate decisions, but with misunderstandings and rapid escalation. This is why communication channels and diplomatic efforts remain critical, even when relations are strained. But do you think these channels are strong enough to handle the current level of tension? There is also the question of alliances. The United States works closely with partners around the world, and its actions are often coordinated within these networks. Similarly, China has its own relationships and strategic partnerships. When tensions rise, these networks can either help stabilize the situation or add complexity, depending on how they are managed. So consider this. Do alliances reduce the risk of conflict, or can they sometimes increase it by drawing more parties into the equation? Public perception is another factor that cannot be ignored. How people understand these events influences political decisions. If the public views a situation as a serious threat, there may be greater pressure on leaders to respond strongly. On the other hand, if the situation is seen as manageable, there may be more room for diplomacy. This creates a feedback loop where perception shapes policy and policy shapes perception. So ask yourself, how much of what you hear is shaping your own understanding of the situation? At its core, the situation between China and the United States is about more than a single threat. It is about the evolving balance of power in a changing world. It is about how nations adapt to new realities, manage competition, and avoid conflict. And it is about the choices that leaders make in moments of uncertainty. The future is not predetermined. It will be shaped by decisions, actions, and responses on both sides. Will there be greater cooperation, or will competition intensify? Will communication improve, or will misunderstandings grow? And most importantly, how will these dynamics affect global stability? As you think about what happens next, remember this. The most important developments are often not the ones that make headlines, but the ones that quietly shape the direction of events over time. Pay attention to patterns, to changes in tone, and to the actions that accompany words. Because in a situation like this, the real story is not just what is being said, it is what is being signaled. And that leaves us with one final question. Are we witnessing a temporary phase of tension or the beginning of something much larger?